Nearly 200 missiles fired into Israel, a major escalation in the war in the Middle East.
Tonight, a show of force from Iran with threats to escalate if Israel retaliates. Good evening. The missiles were launched towards populated cities in what Israel calls a serious assault.
The Israelis say the attack failed and Tehran will pay a price. CTV's Heather Wright has tonight's top story.
Sirens wail over Tel Aviv as a barrage of missiles rains down on Israel. While most were intercepted by Israel's air defense systems, some got through the Iron Dome, causing damage. But the IDF says there has so far been no reports of serious injuries. The salvo fired today, retaliation, according to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, for the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, and Abbas Nilfarushin, an Iranian general who was killed in the strike that took out Nasrallah. Iran's attack comes on the same day Israel launched a ground invasion into Lebanon, an incursion the IDF says will be, quote, limited.
I know everybody's been saying we are trying to avoid a regional war, but I think when Israel's bombing the Houthis in Yemen and targets in Syria and invading southern Lebanon, I think we have to just accept that this has already expanded to more of a regional conflict.
In Lebanon, people in the south are again being told to leave their homes. An estimated 1 million people are now displaced in a country with limited resources to respond to the crisis.
There is huge pressure inside of Lebanon right now, politically, humanitarian-wise, and with all the other groups that are in there, it's going to be a destabilizing effect for some time.
For months, Global Affairs Canada has urged Canadians in Lebanon to leave. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says 200 were able to get out over the weekend, with another flight scheduled to leave today.
If you are offered a seat, please take it. And it is time to leave Lebanon now.
And in a separate incident, multiple people were killed in an apparent terror attack in Jaffa, just south of Tel Aviv. Officials say the two shooters were killed by police.
Israeli officials have given people the all clear to leave shelters. And so the big question now is, how will Israel respond to this attack? A military spokesman said there would be, quote, consequences, and a plan for retaliation is already in place. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
The Prime Minister is reacting to the attack, saying Canada unequivocally condemns Iran's reckless attack against Israel. It puts innocent civilians at risk. We fully support Israel's right to defend itself against this attack, and we repeat our call for de-escalation across the region for the safety of all civilians. Earlier today, Canada's Defence Minister said the government is closely monitoring developments in the region.
We have called for a ceasefire. I still remain hopeful. I think we have to remain hopeful that there's a possibility of a ceasefire and a diplomatic resolution of the current conflict, but we're watching with increasing concern about the escalation of violence. The word of Iran launching a missile attack, I think, is a significant escalatory move. Additionally, we saw yesterday Israel began raids into Lebanon, which could be a precursor to a greater incursion, and so we're watching with growing concern.
Last week, Canada joined other G7 nations and several Middle East allies in demanding a 21-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah as the fighting between the two intensified. And this is a live shot from the U.S. consulate on University Avenue tonight. A rally is being held in support of the Lebanese people. This as Israel launched a ground incursion there. Israel and Hezbollah have traded fire across the Lebanese border almost daily since October 8th. The day after Hamas sent fighters into Israel and sparked the war in Gaza.
Also tonight, neighbors startled out of bed by gunshots. A break-in at a Mississauga home resulting in murder. Just one of several deadly incidents overnight in the GTA.
But first, serious safety concerns are being raised tonight about the placement of food trucks in our city. This after a woman was struck by an e-bike and suffered significant injuries.
It happened in a bike lane just steps from the food truck, and we want to warn you the video of the crash is hard to watch, but you should know the woman is recovering and spoke with us today. CTV's Sean Leathong joins us live from University Avenue tonight with more on the story. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Zarate, you can see the bike lane is to my right, and just behind me is actually where the food truck is parked. Now, anybody who wants some would have to actually cross this bike lane, and that's what the victim in this situation was doing right before she was struck.
It happens in an instant.
This woman receives her food, steps back from a truck and into a live bike lane, blindsided by an e-bike, resulting in 3 fractures to her skull.
Here, and here. 3, and bleeding brain.
Magali De Silva doesn't remember the crash. It was August 27th at 2 p.m. De Silva was visiting her mother at Toronto General Hospital. The food trucks are parked in the Greenpeace spaces out front, directly beside the University Avenue bike lanes.
I just want something to happen, to not happen with somebody again.
De Silva spent a week in hospital, and now she's seeking the advice of a lawyer while in recovery.
One of the things we're going to be investigating is the placement of food trucks in this particular location.
The operator of the food truck says that he witnessed the crash and he provided the video to the victim. He also says they're allowed to park in any Greenpeace space so long as it's not within 30 meters of a restaurant or a school. Through the lunch hour today, some pedestrians were moving in and out of the bike lane while waiting for food, and others had to watch their step.
I wasn't paying attention, and these bikes are coming back up, really fast.
Dr. Ronan McLaughlin works at Princess Margaret, and he says it's the electronic bikes like the one that struck De Silva, not the lane placement, that is the problem.
And they are silent. They're so you actually don't hear them coming, and they're coming at such a speed, much faster than a normal cyclist.
According to Toronto Police, no charges were laid. We reached out to the City of Toronto for clarification on the law surrounding food trucks and bike lanes. As of now, we have not gotten an answer.
Maybe there's a way to kind of warn them to slow down or something. I just don't know.
I'm coming because the food's pretty good, so I will not stop coming to the food truck. But the type of vehicles that are allowed in cyclist lanes needs to be revised.
Magali De Silva says recovery will still be some time.
I need some answer and make something safe for anyone who is here, because I think something's wrong.
Now, De Silva had initially said that she sought the advice of a lawyer because she's having trouble getting a police report and also getting her insurance covered. But they want to focus now on where the food trucks actually are. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong with Shelson. Back to you.
Thank you, Sean. More news in moments, but first let's take a live look outside as we anticipate a potentially stormy evening. We've seen some rain so far today. Right now it looks rather lovely as the sun sets across the land. Let's bring in CTV's Jessica Smith with a look at the current conditions. What are you seeing?
We're still watching this line of showers, Michelle, make its way across. We've seen a few light ones off and on through the kind of early part of our evening, but it will intensify as we get kind of past about 8 p.m. right through to the early morning hours tomorrow. So we're getting a brief reprieve as we head into the early evening, but the rain is still on its way. Now, temperature-wise, we're sitting in the mid-20s or low to mid-20s, feeling kind of in the mid to upper 20s, and it's quite humid as we head in towards the rest of our evening. Despite stepping into a brand new month, we're kind of getting ready for October into spooky season. It is really still feeling quite warm out there. Temperature-wise, through the islands, we're at 21. It still feels like 26. The same through Pearson. A little more sunshine out there, but overall, we're seeing the cloud cover push in. It's been a kind of an all-day affair, and then we're going to head into this evening where the rain rolls in. Now, wind direction does a lot to cool things down. Mostly southerly flows with the winds. It becomes northerly and quite gusty as we head through the overnight and into the start of the day tomorrow. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll break down the timing of this rain and how long it's sticking around. And then we'll talk about the switch up with some of our temperatures. That's all coming up in a few minutes. Right now, it's back over to Michelle and Zoraida.
Thank you, Jess. We turn to a terrifying and targeted attack, one that ended in murder in Mississauga.
Gunfire erupted during a home invasion. One person was killed, 2 others were injured. CTV's Mike Walker joins us now live from the neighborhood on Joan Drive near Ontario and Central Parkway with the story. Mike.
Well, Zoraida and Michelle, investigators are still trying to determine the motive. What we do know at this point is that a man in his 50s was shot and killed after police say armed suspects broke into the home behind me in the middle of the night. Forensic investigators search for evidence after police say a break-in at this Mississauga home left 1 man dead. The violent sound of gunshots startling neighbors out of bed.
A loud pop. I was in a deep sleep, but it woke me up. It was loud enough to wake me up. I tried going back to bed, and then I heard the sirens coming. Just I think the family or whatever was over there screaming a bit. I heard the police telling people what to do.
Peel Regional Police responded to the home on Joan Drive near Huron, Ontario and Central Parkway around 3:45 this morning. They say 3 armed suspects forced their way into the house where multiple people were inside at the time.
Some sort of altercation took place, and at some point, firing was used.
Responding officers found a man in his 50s suffering from a gunshot wound. He later died from his injuries in hospital. 2 other men were treated in hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Police have not yet disclosed the relationship between the 3 victims.
This street is very peaceful, and we're kind of shocked.
Neighbors left reeling. They tell CTV News several generations of a family lived here, including children. They say the family was in the grocery business.
Apparently a husband and wife and his son and his family. I know they have grocery stores and there's people in and out all the time.
Kids, grandson, it's all here, all living here.
Young says he's known the homeowner for several years and can't understand why they were targeted.
A store, grocery store. Mm-hmm. He really good man. What's the problem now? What's the problem with the city now? I don't understand that.
Investigators are still trying to determine what led to this deadly break-in.
We're looking at all different avenues, so it's very early to give motive.
Neighbors say the homeowner recently upgraded the security system, including new gates and security cameras. Homicide investigators spent the day canvassing the neighborhood for surveillance footage and witnesses. Police have not yet released the victim's identity. Homicide investigators are combing through surveillance footage from the area, but at this point haven't provided a suspect description. Reporting live in Mississauga, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And it was a violent and deadly night in Toronto, with police investigating 2 separate homicides in different parts of the city. A man was fatally stabbed in the city's West End shortly before 12:30 a.m. It happened outside a restaurant at a plaza at St. Clair Avenue and Jane Street. Paramedics arrived to find the man seriously injured, and despite life-saving efforts, he was pronounced dead at the scene. Police have not released any information on possible suspects. And a man in his 20s is dead after an overnight shooting near Allen and Lawrence. Police were called to a plaza for the sound of gunshots around midnight. They found a wounded male in the parking lot. He was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Today, police spoke about both incidents.
While investigators are in the early stages of these investigations, I can confirm that the Toronto Police are canvassing for any witnesses and looking for any video for both of these incidents. We know that the recent violence in Toronto over the last several days, we've had 5 homicides and a few shootings, several shootings. It's deeply concerning, and we understand the community's alarm. Our officers are working around the clock to investigate these situations. You'll notice an increased police presence in these communities, and we will continue to engage with community members.
Anyone with information is asked to contact police.
And we are following a developing story from Durham Region tonight, where 2 people have been found dead in Courtice.
Police were called to a home on Moulton Court this afternoon and found 2 bodies inside. CTV's John Musselman joins us live with the latest from Courtice. John.
Well, Michelle, we did get an update from Durham Regional Police. They have confirmed to us that 2 women were found dead inside the home behind me. Now, they got a call to this home just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. It was a wellness check. When police arrived, they made this discovery. They also found a child inside the home. We're told that a 33-year-old man who was also inside the home has now been taken into custody. This has now been turned over to the homicide department. We don't know the motive here of what happened or why this happened. Neighbors did tell us that the police have been to the home in the past. Here is what police and a neighbor had to tell us just a short time ago.
Officers arrived on scene and located 2 female parties. Both those parties were deceased and suffering from obvious signs of trauma. There was a small child who was also in the home at the time. However, that child was not injured. A 33-year-old male who was inside the home at the time has been taken into police custody, and the homicide unit has now taken over this investigation.
It's just really shocking at the moment to process what's happening on our own street with our own neighbors. It's very sad.
Now, again, this scene remains fairly active here. Police on scene. The home is taped off. They've also set up a command center as well. Durham Regional Police are appealing to any neighbors, anybody who may have information about what happened here, if they can stop by that command center and provide that information. Reporting live at the scene in Courtice, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Still to come, politics at the annual plowing match as the Premier gets in the driver's seat for a rural ride. Lingering questions about plowing through the GTA's congestion crisis. That story is coming up.
A requirement to meet new safety protocols at the island airport is now opening a debate about that airport's future.
Ports Toronto says it needs to make changes at the end of its runway to meet new safety standards, and to help pay for it, it wants a decades-long extension to the current agreement between the organization and the municipal and federal governments. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is live at City Hall, where Council's Executive Committee has been spending the afternoon talking about Billy Bishop Airport. He joins us now live. Scott.
That's right. I'm still talking into the evening here. This is a two-part ask from Ports Toronto. They need to make those changes that wouldn't actually physically lengthen the runway at all, nor would it impact the marine exclusion zone. But they also want a 4-decade-long extension of the current agreement. And that has some people saying it may be time to have a serious conversation about what the future holds for the island airport.
It is a gateway in and out of the city, and in order to adhere to federal safety regulations, the island airport will require some runway upgrades.
For 14 years, Billy Bishop Airport knows that runway is too short. So what should be the goal? Build as quickly as possible a runway that is long enough to make it safe.
By 2027, Billy Bishop Airport requires runway end safety areas meant to reduce the severity of damage to an aircraft should it overshoot or overrun a runway. There are several options on how to do that, but city staff suggest the most efficient would be to add the minimum landmass to meet the new requirements. Ports Toronto, the authority that operates the airport, needs permission from both the city and federal government to amend the agreement that covers airport operations, and they'd also like a 40-year extension of that agreement.
The term extension is essential, not just for practicality, but for financial responsibility. Without the ability to amortize the costs over a longer term, Ports Toronto simply cannot finance the essential infrastructure.
The idea of extending the current agreement until 2073 is not sitting well with many.
We can have that conversation after we fix the runway. Let's fix the runway now. No one is closing the airport.
Ask the public, do you want an island airport or do you want public parkland?
But that debate was brought to the executive committee today by members of the public.
Why would we ask, do you want us to get rid of the airport? That actually is not the question right now.
Some believe the city needs to decide now what the future holds for the island airport and the land that it is on.
Billy Bishop Airport generates $500 million of GDP every year. It's the 9th busiest airport in the country, and it supplies nearly 5,000 jobs here in the heart of Toronto. So there is an economic imperative that we extend that agreement.
A turbulent debate that has been circling the city for some time may be about to land, all due to new runway requirements.
We need to have that dialogue. We need to have the people who are pro-airport, anti-airport. We all need to have a framework for discussion to get all the facts out so that we can have a sensible discussion about, does it make sense in the end?
So city staff are not recommending that politicians agree to that request to extend the agreement by 40 years. They are sort of suggesting that by taking the easiest option, it would be the best way to not have to get into the weeds on renegotiating much of that agreement. I mentioned the meeting still going on. There have been so many people here to speak about it. Councillors now asking questions. Whatever is decided here tonight will still have to be approved by the full council. Reporting live outside City Hall, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. Ontario's minimum wage workers will soon be bringing home more money. As of today, the general minimum wage is up to $17.20 per hour, while students under 18 will earn a minimum of $16.20. For those employed as home workers, wages are climbing to $18.90 per hour. That brings Ontario's minimum wage to the second highest in Canada. However, a report released by the Ontario Living Wage Network last November pegged the minimum living wage a worker living in the GTA needs to cover their expenses at just over $25 an hour.
It is an annual political tradition that brings Queen's Park to rural Ontario.
The Premier and other provincial leaders took part in the international ploughing match in Lindsay today. While Doug Ford hitched a ride on a tractor, he faced questions about reducing gridlock in Toronto. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
Away from Queen's Park and getting in touch with Ontario's rural roots, leaders squared off to see how straight they could usher a plough at this year's international ploughing match. At the event's parade, the political theatre, not escaping the pressing issues like the crippling congestion in and around Toronto. Now, the spokesperson for the Minister of Transportation confirms with CTV News the Ford government did consider buying back a portion of the 407 when Highway 413 was evaluated, long before announcing plans to explore tunneling under the 401.
We're doing a feasibility study. Nothing's off the table of the 407. We own part of the 407, about 30% of it. Not the far end of it, not the complete, the new part.
According to the government, Highway 407 will be at or above capacity within the next 10 years and is not a realistic option to ease the time-sucking traffic, saying by 2031 there would be similar congestion problems even if the 407 was expanded, tolls were subsidized, and truck priority lanes were included. This is, of course, a friendly competition among rivals, but how to steer the GTA's gridlock crisis depends on who you ask.
Moving toward buying it back is one thing, but we should be, at least right now, as we've proposed before, move all the trucks over onto the 407. You know, no fees for trucks on the 407.
Fantasy tunnel. I think the Premier's a little stressed. Come up with ideas like that. I think it's far more realistic to look at the economics of buying back the 407.
Some arguing Ford's tunnel proposal is about more than traffic pain.
This tunnel is a huge distraction from the Premier's failures to address the housing and healthcare crisis. We'd be much better off paying the tolls for truckers on the 407, getting them off of the 401, and better utilizing an existing highway.
But the government argues with Ontario's rapid population growth, there is a need for new infrastructure like Highway 413, the Bradford bypass, and the potential tunnel. The possible price tag to buy back the 407 not immediately shared. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
In the U.S., the heart-wrenching recovery effort continues in the southeast following Hurricane Helene. The storm is being blamed for the deaths of at least 152 people. There's also widespread devastation. Crews have been working around the clock to clear roads, restore power and phone service, and reach those still stranded. More than 150,000 households have already registered for federal assistance, and that number is expected to rise rapidly in the coming days. Nearly 2 million ready-to-eat meals have been sent to the hardest-hit areas, along with more than 1 million liters of water.
The new head of NATO took charge of the world's largest security organization today. Mark Rutte was joined by his predecessor for the handover in Brussels. The new Secretary General is vowing to shore up Western support for Ukraine. His other priorities include encouraging more defense spending and bolstering NATO's partnerships around the world. Rutte succeeds Jens Stoltenberg, who stepped down after 10 years on the job. The change comes as the alliance confronts some of the biggest challenges in its history.
On Parliament Hill, the Liberals have survived a second non-confidence vote. Like last week, the NDP and Bloc Québécois voted against the Conservative motion in the House of Commons this afternoon. But the Bloc is also now threatening to bring down the minority government. Earlier in the day, it forced a debate about increasing old-age security payments for all seniors. Yves-François Blanchet has given the Liberals until October 29th to greenlight the bill.
Because they are close to completion of the procedure to have them implemented. Because they are not divisive. There's no wedge in those issues. And they do represent a very important gain for retired people, of which there are 1 million in Quebec and 4 million in Canada.
Blanchet also wants the government to agree to pass a private member's bill that exempts the supply-managed farm sectors like dairy and eggs from any future trade negotiations.
The stage is set for tonight's U.S. vice presidential debate, likely the only one before next month's election. The debate will give Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance an opportunity to introduce themselves and make the case for their running mates. It also might be the last debate of the campaign. The teams for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have not agreed on a second showdown between the two presidential candidates. This evening's debate is in New York, and it's being hosted by CBS News.
Meanwhile, a man who is no stranger to political debating is celebrating a milestone birthday. Jimmy Carter turned 100 today. The Democrat served as U.S. president from 1977 to 1981. He then worked for more than 40 years leading the Carter Center, a non-governmental organization. Carter's decades of humanitarian work earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. In a birthday tribute, current President Joe Biden said Carter had always been a moral force for the United States and the world. His centenary is also being celebrated with the broadcast of a charity tribute concert by stars of country, rock, and gospel music.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, many people buy new cars because they want a warranty in case there's a problem, especially with the engine or transmission. But even if your car is under warranty, it may not be covered if a dealership feels you abuse the vehicle. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
And we've welcomed in a brand new month, but we're still holding on to a ton of heat. And as we head throughout the next couple of days, we're nowhere really near the seasonal norms. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including breaking down the rain we're expecting this evening. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
When you buy a new car, it will come with a warranty that will protect most items for 3 to 4 years or until a set number of kilometers.
But warranties also come with limitations, and that could void your warranty in some cases. CTV's Pat Foran has all the details on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Zarida and Michelle. A Pickering student bought a new car 2 years ago and the engine failed this summer. He thought it would be repaired under warranty, but the dealership said it had proof he was redlining the car, so the engine is not covered. What did you think when they said, well, you might have warranty, but you're not covered?
I was really stressed out. You know, $10,000 is a lot of money.
Christian Matsoros of Pickering is apprenticing to be a mechanic. 2 years ago, he bought a Hyundai Elantra N, a sports model he says was designed for performance driving.
It is their track car. They designed it for the track use. It's a 2-liter turbo. It's equipped with a 6-speed manual transmission.
When Matsoros bought the car, he paid extra for an extended warranty and felt he had coverage for 7 years or 140,000 kilometers. In June of this year, while he was driving home, his car's engine failed at 46,000 kilometers. The cost to repair the engine is about $10,000.
It just stopped. I was clicking the gas pedal and it wasn't moving.
The car has been sitting for the past 3 months at a Hyundai dealership. After reviewing the vehicle's data through the engine control unit, it was determined the car had been abused and the engine had been redlined multiple times. Matsuros admits he has taken the car to a racetrack several times to race the quarter mile.
The car has been to the track, but that is not when this motor incident occurred. I was just coming home on the highway and it blew up.
When CTV News reached out to Hyundai Canada, a spokesperson said an investigation was done, and these findings point to excessive engine revving, which falls outside the coverage of the vehicle's warranty due to improper use. Damage caused by misuse is not covered. Matsoros is concerned the car is also under recall for a high-pressure fuel pump. Despite being denied, he still feels Hyundai should repair the engine.
I want Hyundai to cover this motor, especially because I did purchase the extended warranty.
And with new technology, most dealerships can plug in your car and see the kind of driving you've been doing. It's a reminder to be careful not to over-rev your engine or your warranty could be denied. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Looks a bit deceiving out there. You think it's going to be cold with the leaves falling and the darkness.
No, not at all.
I know.
We're entering the month of October with quite a bit of warmth. You would expect by now to maybe be doing more jackets and things, but we had a warm September and at times, and here we are into October.
Yeah, it continues, and we kind of should be sitting around that maybe 14, maybe 16 degree mark, and we really aren't anywhere close to that over the next couple of days. So if you do enjoy a warmer start to fall, you don't love the jackets, we don't really need them over the next few days, but we are contending with a little rain as we head through this evening, so keep that in mind. It could add some time to your commute. Temperature-wise, though, it remains really mild, as we mentioned, and it's going to stay that way. It looks a little deceiving out there, and we're seeing the sunset time now just before 7 p.m. Hard enough to believe we're at that time of the year already, but we're still holding on to a decent amount of warmth as we head into the evening. For example, here in the city, we're still sitting at 20 degrees as we head in towards this early part of our night, feeling like 26. Relatively warm across the majority of southern Ontario, where the cool down has already taken place is through northern and central portions of the province, and that's thanks to a cold front that is pushing its way down, bringing some rain, and behind it, a cooler air mass. But for now, we're holding on to warmth this evening. We'll be at 12. We should be at 8. We're dealing with rain, but it's, I guess, warm rain to an extent, although we do have a fairly gusty northerly wind. Temperature-wise, even warmer in eastern Ontario. Kingston is at 17. They should be at 5. Into the day tomorrow, we'll hold on close to seasonal. We'll sit at 19. We should be around 17 this time of year, but we'll see a decent amount of sunshine. So the rain that comes through the overnight, it's honestly gone by the time we get to that morning commute tomorrow for many, with the exception of folks out towards eastern Ontario. There is that line of showers, and as we continue to push through the rest of our evening, overnight, we'll see it kind of sweep its way across. Temperature-wise, we're not terribly above seasonal, but we're not in those single digits just yet. As we head throughout the rest of our night, we're holding on to that cloud cover. It intensifies. We're at around that kind of 9 to 10 p.m. window, so we're watching for rain, heavy at times, the risk of thunderstorms. This always comes with a chance of some localized flooding. As we get in towards about 2 a.m., the bulk of it for the GTA starts to taper off. It focuses on eastern Ontario, and that's where it lingers as we start the day tomorrow. As we head in towards our Wednesday, our Thursday, we see the sunshine start to return, and same with some of those temperatures. We climb back towards a more above seasonal mark with this trend of a warm start to the fall season really not going anywhere. Into the day tomorrow, we are getting the closest so far to that seasonal low. We'll sit around 9 or 10 degrees tomorrow, but that daytime high sitting at about 19, and then we get back into the 20s as we head through your Thursday and Friday. So traditionally around this time of year, again, that 14 to 16 degree mark, we're nowhere near that. So if you still have outdoor sports going on at this time of year, it's really quite nice over the next couple of days. We're kind of tiptoeing in towards, Thanksgiving in the next kind of 2 weeks, so we're holding on to some warmth if you want to spend some time outside over this week anyways. Into towards your Friday, again, really quite nice. Into the beginning of the weekend, we start off with warmth and sunshine. In the evening, we dip down again. The cool down begins as we watch another round of rain likely to kind of make its way through on Sunday. We don't cool down terribly, just to 19 for that daytime high. And it's not an all-day rain affair either. We'll see it kind of off and on. And then as we get in towards Monday, it starts to push out. So stepping into next week, that's when we start to trend finally towards a more seasonal daytime high. We'll sit at just 15 for the high, 8 for the low. The cloud cover pushes out quite quickly as we head through Monday and then in towards next week. Although it isn't as warm as it has been, it is closer to seasonal, and at least it comes with some sunshine. So as we kind of tiptoe in towards Thanksgiving, it is going to be relatively mild. So, right, I'll send things back over to you.
All right, thank you, Jessica.
Thanks.
Also tonight, the Thanksgiving play hits the Toronto stage, promising to serve up a comedic feast. Andrea Case catches up with the director and some of the cast members.
McMaster Children's Hospital says it will resume tonsil and adenoid surgeries next week.
It comes nearly 4 months after 2 children died following the procedures. We get the latest from CTV Health reporter Pauline Chan.
Tonsil and adenoid surgery is a common childhood procedure, but for the past 4 months, Hamilton Health Sciences halted the surgeries and has been conducting a review of its program.
The hospital suspended the surgeries on June 4th after 2 children died following the procedures. One died the day after, the other died 9 days following surgery.
In a statement issued today, Hamilton Health Sciences said, "While there is no apparent connection between these 2 tragic cases, we are undertaking a comprehensive review of the program by external subject matter experts. As a world-leading pediatric hospital, our goal is to provide the best care possible for all of our patients. They expect and deserve nothing less." No specific actions or absence of actions were noted by the review. Hamilton Health Sciences says since June 4th, some 100 surgeries have been postponed, and the hospital is now in the process of contacting families of children who had tonsil and or adenoid surgery scheduled at McMaster Children's Hospital. In 2023-24, McMaster Children's performed 584 such surgeries, with 5.8% requiring a return to the emergency department. That's just slightly above the typical risk for severe complications, which is 5%. Many children go home the same day after tonsil or adenoid surgery. Emergency cases requiring tonsil or adenoid surgeries did continue while the program was suspended. Hamilton Health Sciences is planning to begin operating on scheduled cases again on October 7th. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The H5N1 virus, also known as avian flu, is spreading to animals other than birds. In the U.S., Multiple states are dealing with outbreaks of the virus in dairy cows. Recent testing on milk sold in 10 states found traces of the virus, but experts say it does not necessarily pose a health risk.
From coast to coast, milk samples were tested by a group of Canadian scientists. Zero evidence of the virus found. That's obviously great news. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is also doing this work and continues with this work. So far, we have not seen it in Canadian dairy cows. That's fantastic news. Important to be vigilant, important to have surveillance systems up such that if it is ever identified, you can jump on these outbreaks to prevent further spread. And the issue is in the United States, they didn't jump on it quickly enough.
So far, 4 dairy farm workers in the U.S. have contracted the virus from exposure to infected cattle. All have since recovered.
How do you do the right thing in an ever-changing world? That is the premise of a new show opening tomorrow in Toronto.
Now, CTV's Andrea Case reports if you've ever had a debate about social justice issues, you will find humor in the Thanksgiving play.
We're 4 white people making a culturally sensitive first Thanksgiving play. Oh my goddess.
When a politically correct attempt to update a myth of the first American Thanksgiving by incorporating today's social justice issues in a high school play, comedy ensues in the Thanksgiving play. Vanetta Stromberg is the play's director.
It's about a lot of different things. Trying to be perfect, saying the right thing, doing the right thing, being mindful and aware and culturally sensitive, and failing a lot.
The Thanksgiving play was written by American playwright Larissa Fasthorst. She has the distinction of being the first Native American woman to have a play produced on Broadway. And while it takes place over American Thanksgiving, the themes are universal.
It's among the top 10 plays that are produced across North America. And I think it's because in a way that is, you laugh, so you're having fun, but it helps just kind of make you feel safe, being comfortable with that discomfort.
Professional rugby player and veteran actor Craig Lozon is originally from Ottawa. Of mixed settler and Anishinaabe descent, he stars as Caden, a know-it-all history teacher and wannabe playwright. His mother is an educator and was his grade 9 homeroom teacher.
He was like, "Why weren't you in homeroom? I drove you here."
Rachel Cairns plays a teacher whose idea it is to mount the play.
She's wound very tightly, and as she's trying so desperately hard to just get everything right, that it just all goes wrong.
I was just Googling, and things weren't so chill between the Pilgrims and the Indians.
I think it's a great play for people to see because it's going to make you think, it's going to make you laugh, and it's going to inform you about things and make you maybe think about, why am I laughing at this part?
Opening tomorrow, the Thanksgiving play is on stage at the CAA Theatre until October 20th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
After the break, remember when the Raptors wore purple jerseys? The classic team color is being revived for fans itching for that throwback look.
Up with a kid in the hall.
Mark McKinney has a new show, and it's all about finding him a new hobby. Our conversation is on the next CP24 Breakfast,
where Toronto gets us everything every morning.
Updating our top stories, Israel is vowing retaliation after Iran fired almost 200 missiles into the Jewish state today. There were no reports of casualties. Earlier, Israeli troops crossed into southern Lebanon in what the military described as a limited ground incursion.
For 14 years, Billy Bishop Airport knows that runway is too short. So, what should be the goal? Build as quickly as possible a runway that is long enough to make it safe.
How to deal with the runway situation at Canada's 9th busiest airport is sparking debate. Some believe the city needs to decide now on the future of the island airport and the land it's on.
Today, there was a suggestion it be transformed into public parkland. Councillors say now is not the time for that discussion.
If we're doing a feasibility study, nothing's off the table of the 407. We own part of the 407, about 30% of it.
The Premier fielding questions today about traffic congestion in the GTA. He spoke during the International Plowing Match, an annual photo opportunity for political leaders. The government has confirmed officials did consider buying back its portion of the 407 when Highway 413 was evaluated, long before announcing plans to explore tunneling under the 401. Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know. On the markets, the Canadian dollar traded today at 74.13 cents U.S., up about a fifth of a cent. Western Canadian Select Oil closed at 54.52 a barrel, up 62 cents. And the TSX Composite Index ended the day at 24,033, up just over 33.62 points.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Credit card transaction fees for small businesses by up to 27% starting on October 19th. Ottawa says the cut could save eligible businesses more than $1 billion over 5 years. The government also announced that about 600,000 small and medium businesses will receive $2.5 billion under the Canada Carbon Rebate for small businesses. The rebate is only available in jurisdictions where the federal fuel charge applies. Armoro's almost 47,000 dock workers across the U.S. are on strike. Their union says they want a 77% wage increase over the next 6 years and a total ban on the automation of cranes and other equipment. Those representing the port are only offering a 50% pay increase and only limits on automation. The strike could cost about $7.5 billion a week, leading to price increases and delays. The Raptors are revamping their old-school purple jerseys for the upcoming season. The Raps sharing a video of their stars wearing the jersey from the late 1990s and the early 2000s. The Raps have been hinting at the return of the purple uniform all offseason ahead of the franchise's 30th year. It's unclear how often they'll be worn. Just ahead, strawberry fields forever? An Eastern Ontario farm finds a way to grow fresh berries in the fall. This is not the visuals of strawberries. That's a field with Kamala Harris. But we'll have the strawberry story after the break.
Tonight, critical cargo halted. Thousands of U.S. port workers walk off the job.
Businesses rely heavily on a fluid supply chain.
Threats to the Canadian economy and concerns over consumers paying the price. Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live right now on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app. Answering the call.
Thank you, Pat, for getting my money back.
Exposing new scams.
So you're saying I've been hacked?
Making it right.
Thank you, CTV News.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, CTV.
On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
Weeknights on CTV News at 6.
Take a look at this. An artist in Italy dedicated his latest artwork on a field in the Verona countryside to, can you tell who it is? U.S. Vice President and presidential candidate Kamala Harris. It was created with a tractor and a plow without using any tracings on the ground. And this massive portrait covers an area of 27,000 square meters, according to the artist. Well, back here at home, October is usually a time for apple picking, but at a farm in Morrisburg, south of Ottawa, they're still picking strawberries.
It's all thanks to an innovative new growing system. CTV's Jack Richardson with the details.
Picking strawberries in October.
It's so much better. It's unbelievable.
A tabletop system here at Reike's Produce Farm has extended their strawberry picking season by about 6 weeks.
So you're able to get a lot more consistent production. You're not worried about excessive moisture in the ground.
This new setup keeps the berries 4 feet off the ground, so Brian and Jenny Reike don't have to worry about excessive rain.
So the irrigation method for us is we have the main line running underneath the berries, and then we have these spaghetti drippers coming up, and that way we can deliver the water right to the root zone of the crop, and it avoids getting any moisture on the leaves or on the fruit, which helps to maintain quality.
The system is unique for an Eastern Ontario farm, and it's allowed the Reikes to grow more strawberries than years past.
People are loving the quality of them. They keep a lot longer for people in the fridge because they are kept dry and there's just way less disease pressure in here.
I like this stuff for me.
I got strawberries today. They look beautiful
And I have had them before and really enjoyed them. They seem to last a little longer too.
Typically, when you're picking strawberries, you have to get in a stance like this because they only grow up to about your ankles. But here at Reiche's Produce Farm, that's no longer the case with the tabletop system they've implemented. That's made picking strawberries far less labor-intensive for farmers, which the Reiches say has also increased production.
It's a lot easier on the body. We're able to keep going longer days. And it also allows us to be more efficient. You don't have to stand up once in a while to bring stuff away. You're already standing. You're not making that transition, allowing us for more efficient picking as well.
Jack Richardson, CTV News, Morrisburg.
Those look delicious. And the strawberry picking kind of heat continues in October.
It really does. We're still holding on to a lot of warmth as we step into this first week of a brand new month. Typically a little cooler, but I feel like some folks really love the warmth, some don't. But we're kind of getting a little bit of everything as we head through this week and into next. So if you like the warm kind of fall weather, we have that. We're also dealing with some rain as we see a cold front swinging its way across, set to bring showers overnight along with the risk of some thunderstorms. So if you're driving this evening, give yourself that little bit of extra time as we head through the overnight. Temperature-wise, it's still really warm, 20 feeling like 26, but we will eventually see a bit of a cool down as we head into the day tomorrow, just to trend a little closer to seasonal. It's short-lived though, and we have sunshine and temps in the 20s returning just in time for Thursday.
Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, and Zoraida will be back with your local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a wonderful night.
We'll see you tonight.